In Toni Morrison's short story, Sweetness, a light-skinned woman gives birth to a daughter whose skin is so intensely midnight black it terrifies her. The mother's reaction is immediate and visceral. She refuses to hold the infant. She switches to bottle feeding the moment they get home, and for one horrifying minute, she holds a blanket over the newborn's face, pressing down. She ultimately spares the child, but she establishes a strict psychological wall. She refuses to let her own daughter call her mama, forcing the infant to use the nickname Sweetness to avoid any public assumption that they are related.
Before we can decide if Sweetness is a monster or a tragic protector, we have to examine the society that built her. This diagram maps out the brutal reality of colorism in Jim Crow America. As you move along this spectrum toward lighter skin tones, you see a direct increase in physical safety and economic mobility, a system of survival the text calls skin privileges. Sweetness's grandmother sat at this extreme end. She was light enough to pass for white. To secure total safety in a hostile country, she crossed the color line permanently, marrying a white man and returning letters from her black children unopened. Sweetness's own mother fell closer to the middle. She refused to pass, and the system punished her for it, forcing her into humiliating servitude where she had to scrub the backs of rich white employers in their bathtubs. When her parents went to the courthouse to get married, the clerk presented 2 Bibles. One was for white hands, and a completely separate one was kept specifically for colored citizens. The trauma of these daily humiliations bled inward. Black communities stratified themselves by skin tone, forming social clubs, sororities, and churches where lighter skin was a strict requirement for entry. It was a desperate attempt to hold on to status in a country designed to deny it. Sweetness didn't invent colorism. By the time her daughter was born, she had inherited generations of proof that light skin offered a shield and dark skin invited destruction. The arrival of a deeply dark-skinned baby shatters Sweetness's life. Her husband assumes she lied about her ancestry, packs his bags, and abandons the family. Sweetness is forced into cheap housing and works night shifts at the hospital. She pushes herself relentlessly just to keep herself and her infant out of the crowded welfare relief lines, where government clerks treated applicants with open contempt. Even finding a place to sleep is a danger. When she applies for apartments, Sweetness intentionally leaves her baby with a teenage cousin, knowing a landlord will make up a reason to deny her a lease if they see the child's complexion. To navigate these threats, Sweetness implements a regimen of intense strictness and emotional distance, training Lula Ann to keep her head down and remain subservient. This training had a grim context. Sweetness had seen white boys violently trip a young black girl for sport, laughing while they knocked her flat. Talking back or a schoolyard fight carried the risk of juvenile lockup. In Sweetness's view, stripping her daughter's pride was a necessary way to navigate a world where a sassy black child was treated as a target. Sweetness's emotional abuse was a tragic paradox. She became her daughter's first oppressor to ensure she wouldn't be killed by the actual ones. The bitter irony is that the harsh training works. Lula Ann survives, grows up, and thrives as a bold, highly independent adult. Cultural aesthetics shift over the decades. Lula Ann moves to California and actually leverages her striking dark features to build a lucrative career in fashion. But the protection costs Sweetness everything. As soon as Lula Ann is old enough, she completely severs the relationship. She refuses to visit or call, communicating only by sending envelopes of cash to ease her own conscience. Sweetness ends up isolated in a cheap nursing home, clinging to brief notes from a daughter who won't even use her real name, signing her letters coldly with the word bride. Then a letter arrives on blue paper. Lula Ann is pregnant. The news finally cracks through the old woman's defensive armor, exposing a deep, agonizing regret for all the affection she withheld. Sitting alone in that room, Sweetness arrives at a haunting realization.
What you do to children matters, and they might never forget. The most insidious triumph of systemic racism occurs when it enters the household and forces a mother to break her own child's heart as a survival tactic.